vibration galvanometer. Hmm, Today is 28th November. Now you know it's another form of PMMC instrument, and also it's a type of D'Arsonval galvanometer. Okay. Now what it does, it measures the frequency of the current that passes through the instrument coil. Okay. Now what is the basic principle of that thing? Now first we consider one. Uh, so this is one north pole and south pole, so they're permanent magnets. Now the instrument coils are running in a magnetic field produced by the permanent magnet as usual, no change. But one thing is that, okay, this coil is actually uh, fastened at the two ends. Okay, so diagrammatically we can draw it this way. So it is actually fixed this way. So it is called a bridge piece. Okay, and it is also under tension. Okay, by the same arrangement in the other end. So that is also another bridge piece. And the coil runs over the two bridge pieces. Okay, then okay, there is a pulley arrangement. Pulley, and the whole arrangement is tensed, is stretched actually. So this is the spring. Actually, this figure is given in the material already. That one. Now, so the wires of the conducting wires are under in tension. Okay, the conducting wires are under in tension, and the it is carrying the current also at the same time in the magnetic field. So now the thing is that whenever a current is passing through the coil under stretched condition, okay, then the coil will start vibrating. It will a force will be there. A force will come into act, and the coil will oscillate. It will vibrate just this way. It cannot move too much because uh, it is under stretched condition on the other side. Okay. Now one mirror is placed. One mirror is placed which is attached to the conducting wire, and there is a light source. So there is a light source which emits light, and the light is incident over the reflecting plane or the mirror, and it comes back, and it comes back. Now whenever, so it's a light source. Now when it just oscillates, when some current flows, it oscillates. The frequency of oscillation depends on actually on the frequency of the applied current, the omega, the angular frequency of the applied current. And it is, and due to the pulsation of this coil as well as due to the pulsation of the reflecting plate attached, okay, the reflected beam will also oscillate. And we know that when the coil or the reflecting plane moves by an angle theta, the reflected beam will move by 2 theta. Okay. So from the oscillation of the reflected beam, we can find out, from the time period of oscillation, we can find out the frequency. We can find out the frequency of oscillation, frequency of the applied current actually. Okay. Now, when the frequency of the applied current is equal to the natural frequency of oscillation of the system starts resonating, a resonance will set in, a mechanical resonance, and the amplitude of oscillation will be quite high. Okay, it's a mechanical resonance. Okay, so when the applied current, its frequency is equal to the mechanical natural frequency of oscillation of the system, it will start oscillating heavily, and we can have the idea that yes, it is the, from the high amplitude of oscillation, we can say that yes, it is the resonance comes in, and our applied frequency is equal to the is equal to the natural frequency of the system, and our natural frequency of the system is already set to a fixed value. So we can say that yes, our input frequency is equal to that value. Sometimes what happens, we don't know the input frequency. Our sine omega t, omega is not known. That case, you will vary the natural frequency of oscillation of the system. How will vary the natural frequency of oscillation? Just by varying the tension of the coil. Okay. Tension, the tuning is done in two ways. One is a coarse tuning. Okay, a tuning which is by varying the length of the two bridge pieces, the gap between the two bridge pieces, the length of the coil. And a fine tuning is done by varying the tension of the spring. So that's how we can vary the frequency of oscillation. And when an unknown frequency is applied there, okay, and we tune the thing at a particular tuned value, okay, of natural mechanical and angular frequency, we will note what is the resonance condition, and that resonant frequency is actually, it indicates actually the unknown frequency of the input signal, input current. So that's how we can find out the frequency of the applied current. Now this arrangement is called actually Dardel's moving coil vibration galvanometer. Dardel's moving coil vibration galvanometer. Okay. Obviously, in this instrument, we reduce the damping to a low value so that under resonant condition, a high amplitude of oscillation will be noted. The response will be quite peaky in nature under mechanical resonance. And also another thing, that we keep the inertia of the moving system quite small. Okay, so that the moving system can follow the rapid change in oscillation. The moving system can follow the rapid change in oscillation. Clear? So, and then ultimately the mechanical resonance is established. Now, what is the material of the moving coil? It consists of a fine bronze or platinum wire. Okay, this material is having some appropriate electrical conductivity to carry current of required amplitude, and also is having adequate mechanical strength to withstand the oscillation. Okay, so that is the basic principle of vibration galvanometer. Okay, obviously that is one form of vibration galvanometer, a Dardel's moving coil galvanometer. Okay, now what is the equation actually? The thing is that its equation is know that A plus d theta dt plus theta I is the current m psi t. So it is the excitation current. Excitation current is or input current, and omega is the frequency, okay, that we want to measure. Now we take Laplace transform as usual. So it is A into, now if we take Laplace transform A into s squared theta s minus s theta 0 minus theta dot 0 plus b s theta s minus theta 0 plus c theta s equal to g into I of s. Obviously, the system is initially relaxed. After we apply current, then only we get initial we get some deflection. So we call it, so these all the initial conditions are zero. You know, this type of system is called initially relaxed, means no initial condition. No initial condition. It does not store any energy in the beginning. Means does not store any energy in the beginning. Okay. ঠিক আছে, ওকে। মুশকিল হচ্ছে তোমাদের তো কাউকেই আমি ঠিক চিনি না, ডাইরেক্ট কোনো আর ক্লাসে দেখা হচ্ছে না, যাই হোক। ওকে,
Okay.
so that is the transfer function. Now what I intend to say that when we apply a current, some input, any input, whatever it may be, current or voltage, and wait for some time, then the output attains a steady state. The output attains some steady state condition. Okay, the steady state, then the amplitude of the steady state output can be found, okay, by a technique that if you put s equal to j omega, okay, if you put s equal to j omega and put it in the transfer function, then you can find out the gain of the system or the multiplying factor of the system, okay, and the phase of the system that will be contributed to the output, that will be used to modify the output. So what is the system gain? System gain at input frequency omega is, it is what? It's found by hs equal to s equal to j omega. This is equal to g by, now you put s equal to j omega here. So it will be, that is equal to minus a omega square plus b into j omega plus c. Okay. So that is the system gain. Now I write it in the next page. It's page number 1. So I continue it in the next page. What I am writing here, these are all given in your material. Okay. Nothing new today. Okay. So I am writing it hs h omega equal to g by, now we simplify it, it will be c minus a omega square plus j b omega. that is Hj omega. Okay, next page number 2. Now, what is the amplitude of the transfer function? The amplitude of the transfer function is G divided by square root of C minus A omega square, and the squaring of every entire thing plus B square omega square. Okay, and angle is what? Minus tan inverse B omega by C minus A omega square. So this is the gain of the system. Gain of the system, and that is the phase of the system. This we call it equal to mod of H omega. Mod of H omega, and that phase it is we call it angle H omega. Angle H omega. So it means that whenever there is a system Hs, okay, we apply some input. Say our input is I of t, some input current, a function of t, and we get some output theta of t, some deflection varying with time t. So if we apply, okay, some current, input current Im sine omega t, omega is the input frequency, okay, here, then what is the steady state output? Theta SST is the steady state output. The output available long after the input is applied. Steady state output, it can be found as mod of H omega, that is the gain of the system, into the magnitude. There is the two magnitudes are multiplied. And okay, and what is the phase? Input is sine, so output will be also sine. Sine omega t, and phase of the system is angle H omega. Angle H omega. It is that one. So here it is, actually we are getting it. It's mod of H omega. Mod of H omega, and angle is, phase angle is angle H omega. This one. Clear? So that is this particular thing. So what is our steady state output? Theta SST. Our input is Im. So our output will be the magnitude of the system G divided by square root of mod of H omega C minus A omega squared plus B square omega square. This into the input current, that is into Im. That is this, and sine, okay, it will be omega t plus, it's not plus, there is a minus sign, minus tan inverse B omega by C minus A omega square. So that one. So that is the steady state output. So the input amplitude Im is multiplied with the gain of the system, mod of H omega. And what is the phase of the system? The phase of the system is actually added with the input phase. Our input phase is what? Omega t. The input phase, they are added. If our input is sine omega t plus alpha, any alpha, omega t plus alpha, then it will be omega t plus alpha, then plus the phase contribution of that particular system. Okay. Now here our phase is negative here. That's why a minus sign is there. If phase is positive, it would be positive, no problem. So this particular fact, okay, it will be discussed in other semester classes. When we will go to the higher semester class, it will be proved actually in the class. Okay, it will be proved in the class. So therefore, what is the amplitude of output? Our amplitude of output, we can write therefore is amplitude of response. Our output is G Im by square root of C minus A omega squared plus B square omega square. Okay, and phase of the output equal to sine omega t plus this. So phase is simply tan inverse. We can write it. It is minus tan inverse. So it is minus tan inverse B omega by C minus A omega square. The phase of the thing. This particular thing. Now note that what is our purpose? Our purpose is that when we apply some input current and the input current somehow triggers the resonance of the system, then the amplitude of vibration will be very high. So that from the high amplitude of vibration, we can easily track the input. We can easily conclude that yes, now the mechanical resonance is set, and that is corresponding to that mechanical resonant frequency, we can find out the frequency of the input. So we need a high amplitude of vibration. Okay. Therefore, now we can write to increase the amplitude of vibration, what we can do? Okay, we can G can be increased. G can be increased. Okay, but what is G? Our G equal to NBA. Now we know G equal to NBA, where N is the number of turns of the coil, A is the cross-sectional area of the coil, or the former area also you can see, no. Okay, now if we increase A or B, what you will do? You can increase A or B. So these two things. Flux density cannot be increased very much. So now if we increase N and A, it means what? The inertia constant A will be increased also, because there are more coils means more mass of the system, and more number of turns means more mass, and more area is also means, okay, either the mass is increased or at least the mean radius of rotation will be increased. In other words, the moment of inertia will increase. So A is the moment of inertia or inertia constant. So that will increase ultimately. Okay. So ultimately, okay, so that A is increased. But a high A means what? Okay, a high A means actually the denominator is more. Because in the denominator A is there. C minus A omega square, actually A is more means the squared function will be more. Okay. And therefore the amplitude of response will be less. Okay. So therefore this method has some limitation. So this method has some limitation, that is the problem here. Okay. This method has some limitation. Therefore, there is, okay, another method is also there. There is a method 2, that if we make C minus A omega square equal to 0, then denominator will have a much lower value, or omega equal to root over C by A. Okay, then the denominator, a part of the denominator will vanish, so amplitude of response will be quite high. So amplitude will increase. That is a very good method, effective method. And this is, so omega is the input frequency, but we know what is our omega n? Our omega n equal to root over C by A. So therefore, when omega equal to omega n, the natural frequency of oscillation, it means, okay, our amplitude will increase. Our amplitude will increase. Okay, so this is the resonance condition. So that is the resonance condition. Okay, so under resonance, when the input frequency is equal to the mechanical resonance, natural frequency of oscillation, then the amplitude of response will be quite higher. So that is equal to the resonance condition. Okay, from that we can estimate. Now our mechanical frequency is known. It is applied. It is actually found by tuning the coil, by setting a particular distance between bridge piece or the length of the conducting wire, and also by varying the tension of the spring. So we can adjust the or the tune the mechanical natural frequency of oscillation. So omega n is known. So when omega equal to omega n, we can find out that yes, that is the unknown value, that is a known value of input frequency. So that's how we can measure the input frequency. Okay, and one more thing we know is that the amplitude of oscillation increases by with another factor. It depends on the damping of the system also. When the damping is having a particular value, then we get a quite large amplitude of oscillation. Okay. So that's how we can increase the amplitude of oscillation. So that is Dardel's moving coil galvanometer is one type of vibration galvanometer. But obviously there are other types of vibration galvanometer. I want to mention a second type of vibration galvanometer. Okay. So it will be discussed in the next page. So page number 3. Okay. So now the thing is that note that I am writing truly speaking it is not a vibration, it's a frequency meter, but not a truly speaking not a exactly not like a PMMC instrument. Okay, it's a frequency meter. In this context I am telling it frequency meter. Another version is vibrating reed type. Vibrating reed type. Now I don't want to draw any figure just to save time. I am showing you the figure that is given into your material. So it's that one. What is happening? There is a sheet of steel or the ferromagnetic material they are arranged. It is one slice, then another slice, then another slice. That. So it's the lamination actually is there. It's the laminated sheets, laminated core. So these are the laminated core. That is one sheet, then another sheet, then another sheet. These are joined together and they are wound with a winding. So this is the winding. It's a coil. The coil is carrying some current. The current may be either a pure AC or it may be a combination of AC and DC both. Okay, it's carrying. When a current is flowing through that coil, some magnetic flux will be generated, flux density or flux. It will pass through the coil area or it will pass through the ferromagnetic core. Now, as the coil is oscillating, it's scanning some AC current. Okay, some AC is there, either a pure AC or AC mixed with DC. Then what happens? Okay, a core, the magnetic flux will start oscillating through the core. That oscillation actually will generate a force. Okay, actually in a particular array of rectangular steel pieces. The thing is that we call it reed. There is a reed actually. The reed has one. Okay, a fixed end is there, and another is a moving end. Okay, the thing is that actually for that particular reed, one end is fixed either here or সবার মধ্যে দেখে বলতে পারবো না যা পেয়েছি নামটা করে দিচ্ছি. So you are a host now. Okay, so there is an array of reeds that are attached at the lower end. They are free to move. Okay. Now when some pulsating flux the frequency of pulsation becomes equal to the mechanical natural frequency of oscillation for a particular reed, then the reed will start vibrating heavily. Now there are a number of reeds attached one by one, side by side, and each reed is dimensionally a little bit different and their weight is also different. So why we are changing the dimension of each and every reed, or mainly the weight of the reed? It is that because we want to set the natural frequency of each reed to a different value. For example, for one reed, if its natural frequency is 50 Hz, for the adjacent reed it is 50.5 Hz. For the next read it is natural frequency is 51 Hz. On the other side also it is 49.5 Hz, 49 Hz, 48.5 Hz this way. So they are varying normally in 0.5 Hz step. Okay, now when the operating frequency of the coil current is equal to the natural frequency of oscillation for that particular reed, that particular reed will start oscillating vigorously, heavily, and the reed will move up and down. It will create some elongated stretch. Some stretch will be formed, and from that stretch, it will, okay, from the rapid pulsation, we can find out we can conclude that yes, that is the frequency of the input signal, input current. Okay, so that is the basic principle, okay, of that vibrating reed type instrument. Obviously now the equation is also given that there is a when we apply some current in the coil, say we apply some current I equal to Im sin omega t in that particular coil, we know the flux is also becoming proportional to that particular current, the generated flux. Why? Because we are using a magnetic core in a linear magnetization curve. We use, okay, a magnetic core, okay, a ferromagnetic material, for the core, where its magnetization curve is linear. Its magnetization curve is linear, means its BH curve is linear. You know the magnetization curve? Okay. So when we apply some current, now H is proportional to the applied current, okay, the coil current, and B is proportional to the flux. The B is the flux density and flux is the simply just the flux, okay, crossing through the entire area of the core. Now when we apply I equal to Im sin omega t, it is oscillating, Im sin omega t. Now when current is 0, our flux density is 0, okay, that one. Where it is maximum, it is attaining, so by that time it will take a maximum value. When it is becoming 0 again, then it becomes 0. When it is becoming again maximum, then we get what happens. So this one actually, that when again it is becoming 0, then we get that one. Again when it is 0, it will be that one. So ultimately when we get a sinusoidal current, then we get a oscillating current, we get a oscillating flux. So therefore we can say our phi equal to some capital phi m into sin omega t. A pulsating current will generate a pulsating flux due to the linearity of the BH curve. And that pulsating flux will cause some EMF to generate. So that flux will generate some EMF, which is equal to actually d phi dt. It is actually equal to minus d phi dt, we can say. That is the rate of change of flux. And that EMF will drive one eddy current. So it is the eddy current. where the eddy current is flowing, it is flowing through the core actually. Okay, it is flowing through the core. Core is a ferromagnetic material which is also conducting material, so it can carry that eddy current. So that IE equal to finally equal to some IME sine omega t minus alpha. Okay. Now a part of the flux, so note that a part of the flux is creating the eddy current, but not the entire flux will create the eddy current. There are some flux that is not completely linked with the core. So that flux cannot produce any eddy current. So the flux which is not responsible for eddy current actually will be interacting with that eddy current, okay, and a force will be generated. So a force F, it will be proportional to, okay, the fraction of the flux which is not responsible for producing eddy current. So it is actually the fraction, it's not yet complete. I will write you fraction of the flux not responsible, fraction of the flux not responsible for producing eddy current. So K is that particular fraction. So that particular flux will be linked with the eddy current produced by the other part of the flux. Okay, and ultimately some force will be generated. So ultimately that is equal to what? K into phi m sine omega t into I me sine omega t minus alpha, something like, or we can write it, it is equal to, okay, that thing I am writing it here, equal to K phi m I me by 2. So from that we can just by trigonometric manipulation we can write cos alpha minus cos 2 omega t minus alpha, that one. So sin A sin B means cos A minus B minus cos A plus B. This way you know already. Okay. So the force generated, it has two components. One is a fixed component cos alpha, alpha is fixed, and another component it varies with the frequency, double the frequency of the supply voltage. So 2 omega it is a, okay, so twice the supply frequency, twice the supply frequency. See the oscillate, the force is, okay, having a component of frequency which is twice the supply frequency. Okay, now the reed will start oscillating when it's the natural frequency of vibration of the reed, okay, is equal to 2 omega. Okay, there will be oscillation, there will be oscillation when natural frequency of oscillation for the reed is equal to, okay, this frequency, that is the frequency of the driving force. Now it means what? Natural frequency of oscillation of the reed is omega n, and the frequency of the driving force is 2 omega. Okay, then there will have oscillation. So from that we can find out our omega equal to omega n by 2. So from that we can measure our input frequency of the system. Now if our input frequency is mixed, if our input frequency is mixed with DC component also, the DC component cannot produce the eddy current because eddy current is produced due to d phi dt. So when a DC current is produced, that DC current is not responsible, okay, for creating eddy current. So one current is AC, another current is DC. The AC component, a part of the AC current will be responsible for producing eddy current, okay, but the force will be created by the combination of AC and DC both, okay, flux into the eddy current only, okay, and ultimately the derivation is given in your material. I am not doing it, just same principle, only thing is that the DC current cannot produce the eddy current. Then ultimately you will see that our from the frequency of oscillation, we can find out the frequency of input current also. Okay. So if you just see the material, you will get the derivation there. I am not doing it, just conceptually I am telling that this. So that is the basic principle of vibrating reed type frequency meter. Okay. Uh, Note that this is not real. It need not be a vibration galvanometer. Okay. It is just another form of frequency meter. I am telling it in this context. Okay. So that's all about this. Now next day we'll start something different. Okay, but one more thing is not yet there. I didn't discuss it. Okay, better I say this thing now without wasting time. So it's the completion of discussion. Now I go to the next thing. So it's page number 3. So next will be page number 4. PMMC meter excited by AC currents, or you can write say voltages also. We know normally we apply, okay, normally we apply DC current in the coil of the PMMC instrument, a PMMC ammeter or PMMC voltmeter or a vibration galvanometer, okay, we apply AC current. In ballistic galvanometer, we apply short duration charge and all these things, you know, charge flowing through short duration. So I'm not talking about ballistic galvanometer or vibration galvanometer. I'm talking about PMMC meter, ammeter, voltmeter, and the D'Arsonval type of galvanometer. Okay, they are normally coil currents are normally, you know, it is always DC. Now what happens if we apply AC in those PMMC meters? So when we apply, now we know our steady state deflection, it is equal to GI by C for the PMMC instruments, for the PMMC meter. Now let we apply our I equal to some AC current, Im sin omega t. So what is our deflection? It is equal to G Im by C into sin omega t. So it means that when we apply say a current of frequency omega, it corresponds to, say, if we consider power frequency, it oscillates with 50 hertz. So what we expect? We expect that our pointer will oscillate, okay, with a deflection theta equal to some constant into sin omega t. It will also oscillate with 50 hertz frequency. Okay, 50 hertz means 50 cycles per second, too high for a mechanical system. In actual case, what will happen? The pointer and the moving system of the arrangement cannot move with such a large frequency. 50 hertz is not a high frequency in an electrical system. In electrical system, there are much higher frequencies possible. But for a mechanical system, 50 hertz is not a low frequency at all. It is quite a large frequency. The pointer and moving system cannot oscillate with such a large amount of frequency, 50 cycles per second. So what it will do? It will stick to the mean value of oscillation. It will not stick to the mean value of oscillation. It will stick to the mean value of oscillation. So the pointer will not move at all. It will, the deflection of the pointer will be equal to the average value of the average or mean value of the pulsation or oscillation. So it will be theta f average is what? 1 by t integration 0 to t. T is the time period. So it is theta f dt. So when we integrate a sine wave with its full time, our omega equal to 2 pi f or 2 pi by t. F is normally equal to 50 or maybe higher also, whatever it may be. When we integrate, what is the integration of sine wave over full cycle? It is 0, you know, so that will be 0. The pointer will stick simply to the mean value of oscillation, 0 value. So when we apply some AC current in the coil, it will not move at all. It will not move at all. It will stick to the mean value of oscillation. So the PMMC instrument, it means that the pointer will not move. Therefore, pointer will not deflect at all. Deflect under AC excitation. AC excitation. In other words, PMMC instruments cannot respond to AC excitation. PMMC instruments cannot respond under AC excitation. But next day, not today, I shall show you a method of using this AC voltage or current, okay, in using PMMC instrument in a different way. Okay, not today. It will take some time to grasp the concept. Okay, next I'll show you a method that it can be done, but not directly. In a roundabout manner, it is possible. Okay, so today I want to stop, okay, with this discussion. I will give you the material right now. Next day, I shall discuss this particular issue. Any question? Silence means no. So I stop today and leave. No question, isn't it? Fine.